So,
So
mhm,
we just gonna brush over it real quick. I
okay.
I was born in Chicago under the banner of David Barksdale and Larry Hoover. I grew up between Chicago and Michigan. In Michigan, we lived in Grand Rapids and Pontiac. And in Pontiac, I had to go through a whole lot of my trials as a teenager, establishing my position in the community here. They call it putting in work, right? So I put in work here. They said I was a big fish in a small pond. So they took me out to Lake Michigan and flipped me across Lake Michigan back to where I was born to see if I could get it from the dirt and if I was truly a big fish in a small pond. Well, when they got done running their tests on me in Chicago, that's Chief Malik Angel Bay and Larry Hoover, the word came back. That nigga not no big fish in the pond in the lake. That motherfucker is a whale in the lake. Because I'm politically incorrect. So the politics ain't correct. So it's hard for me to be politically correct sometimes. Anyway, so during the course, I went through the system as we all end up doing when we out in the streets doing what we do out there. And going through the system, I began a journey of self-discovery and self-education. My oldest brother and my sister right under me, they used to buy my book supply. Instead of, how people always be like, send me some money when they lay it locked up. I was like, send me some books, send me some more books. I was like Johnny Five, more input, more input. But I didn't know while I was going through my struggles that I was being trained for something. And my character being tested at every turn, slandered, talked about, looked down upon, frowned on, kicked to the curb, and I still stayed who I was. They call it remaining pure at heart. This is part of the testing for chiefs on the land. As we go across the land, how do you be received by the other clans on the land? And while I was trying to evade the law for 6 years, I used that 6 years to traverse the land and become familiar with the different customs from my elders in the South, from the Northeast. I was going over all of the territory that I was responsible for putting Big Mama back in her place so she can balance back out the tribes. So this was a journey of training that I didn't know I was on. Well, it came word through the Wind Talker channel. If you're not a native to the land, you have no clue what I'm talking about when I say Wind Talker channel. But the Wind Talker channel is they call them code talkers. The CIA used them in World War II to crack the Japanese codes when they was talking in code. But when we talk the wind talk, they can't never crack it because we listening to nature and we talking to nature. Nature, two chiefs is like being on the telephone. They can be in nature on different parts of the planet and communicate with each other using the method that we call the wind talking channel. And this is shamanic training of indigenous origin or organic American origin. Those who was here from time immemorial. We call them totem clans, right? The totem clans is the first clans. That's why that's the law of the totem pole is the law of the land, and the law of the flag is the law of the seas. We didn't wave flags over here until Europe settled over here. When Europe settled over here, we made a flag that we call the Confederate flag. And we made the banner known as the banner of the Great Law. So that we had a flag that shows our presence in places without being conspicuous to the enemy of who we are. So they demonized the Confederate flag, said it represented slavery and oppression to our people. All the time, it's Old Glory that all of the race's blood is settled on. The one we pledge allegiance to in elementary school because none of our parents don't know any better. It was Old Glory that Oklahoma City was bombed. It wasn't the Confederate flag. It was under Old Glory that Rosewood was burned down. It wasn't the Confederate flag. It was under Old Glory when they bombed the Move Party, the Move family, John Africa in Philadelphia. That was under Old Glory. But we have a selective memory if it doesn't fit the Eurocentric paradigm given to reject any possibility that one of us know what we're talking about. So when they say we had to teach a hard-headed people, I know what they mean now, because we stuck on false narratives.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody got a piece of the false narrative that they will kill you about. The righteous.
I'm sorry.
Oops, I'm sorry, sweetie.
I don't want to stop you. I don't want to stop your wisdom at all.
Okay, so in settling back to who I am, because I'm from a totem clan, an old Mississippian, the Black Gorilla family, right? The Gorilla Clan, that's my totem. And the gorilla position is right before you go out into the arena. So we always on deck, but we ain't supposed to be called until nobody else can't fix the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So I come in and I'm analyzing the historical narrative given, and then I'm knocking on the Wind Talker channel to verify if the information is correct. Now, some people would say that you get it from psychic means, but it's talking to chiefs. A chief that ever lived on this land, his spirit still speak from the ancestral realm on the Wind Talker channel. So we can communicate with all of the past chiefs using the Hayoka priest method of wind talking or code talking, talking to nature. The ancestral realm is weaved into nature. This is how we have clans named after animals. That's named after the animal because it's their totem. It's the family totem, right? And sometimes the family totem is a body part, as in the case of the Blackfoot, right? And they was called that for several reasons. One of them, because when they was going to the Gullah Wars, coming from the center of the country, they walked barefooted and the sun cooked their feet. When Big Mama seen them, she called them Blackfeet. Not to mention that was what they did to identify the enemies that they captured and killed, is take one of his foot. And anybody seen the decaying foot, it turned black. So all of these was terms to identify who they are, what they did. So when we listening to the elders, they left it in the pottery. They spit it in the music. We listen to the old Delta blues, and we can get codes out of there from the ancestors that was before the settlers. Because some of those songs, what they call old blues tunes, been sang for generations, telling us a story. Those are the griots of the land telling the story in song format that they used to do dancing around the fire. Now they put it on wax and ship it across the country. All of the people get exposed to it, but all of the people don't know what they're listening to. They think they just listening to good music, right? So you got songs like Keep My Mojo Working, right? What he talking about? You got a real big one called I Put a Hex on You. What they talking about? They reminding you that we was the ones who had the conjure of they call voodoo long before settlers came, and voodoo is using the forces of nature to do your bidding for you. So you don't have to go to war with nobody. You can just let the rain flood them out. You can let them get struck by a bolt of lightning. Master student, Malachi the master teacher.
That's a student.
I did all that debating in the joint. I debated with all of them. I debated with the Moors. I debated with the Nation of Islam, with the Jehovah's Witnesses, the Christians, and they all don't realize before 1492, none of that stuff that had nothing to do with us. No. First of all, it wasn't called voodoo in Africa. And it's still not called voodoo in Africa. But it's the same science of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
All shamans have a piece. That's why we got to use the Wind Talker channel so that when certain chiefs come, he can communicate with so many other chiefs to get their piece to put together the solution to whatever the problem is. No matter what it is. Every problem got a solution.
Every problem got a solution.
Because we too dark to tell them the truth. Our skin complexion doesn't match the 500 years of an inundation with pale faces as truth holders. So when we come, they tell you, I don't want to hear that black shit. Or they tell you, oh, you just talking that Islam stuff. They don't got nothing to do with Islam. Islam Arab culture. Well, that's not got nothing to do with us. They drugged that over here. Right?
Yeah.
And they don't even know what it is. The people practicing Islam have no clue what Islam is. Only the Sufis know the truth that's willing to tell it. But they all think that the Sufi is crazy. And they tell the average Muslim to avoid the Sufi because they heretics. They don't believe that Allah, they believe in Allah. But because they was threatened with death, they teach it as Allah, but they know what it is in truth. When they talk about the Hijra is the march of the matriarchs. That's what all the elephants represented. They don't even know that. Right? And then it's telling you about the birds that flew in and dropped the burning stones on them that ate your flesh. Those were bombs. Those were bombs they was dropping from planes. But they have us thinking that Orville Wright, the Wright brothers, invented the plane. They've been flying around Earth for millions of years. All of a sudden, they think all this stuff is new. Ain't nothing new under the sun. We did all this stuff before. We gonna do it again. All we do as eternal beings is trying to find a cause for existence. So we need something to do for eternity. So we allow civilizations to rise and run their lifespan and fall. This is the last leg of the Babylonian Empire. Why do we say Babylonian Empire? Because the forces that's holding these fictitious governments in place trace all the way back to Babylon. Through Rome, through Greece to Babylon. Right? So if Babylon's doctrines is the doctrines that's ruling the world, then we have to be aware of what their doctrines is. They call the rights of sin or sin rights, named after Ninner sin. But they got you thinking that sin is a verb. It's something that you do. They don't tell you that sin is one of the gods. And that if you a sinner, you practice his doctrines. Well, what is his doctrines? See, all of these intelligent scholars, they know a lot of stuff, but they don't know what it means. To be a sinner, you have to be a practitioner of what we call sin rites. That's Babylonian blood magic, Babylonian sex magic, and Babylonian money magic. They was passed in the Talmud and the Mishnah in pieces. And part of it is in the Torah, right? And they have other extant so-called Jewish writings, like the Holy Sephirah or the Kabbalah, that's all telling you what the sin rights is. So now you know when you take communion, why you a sinner, because you practicing the Babylonian blood right or simulated cannibalism. As long as you simulating the cannibalism and you believe that you consuming a deity, then you holding the construct in place with your energy, even if you don't know what it means. So they tell you to eat of his flesh and to drink of his blood, right? And they tell us that he drank from the holy chalice. He was the carpenter's son, but he drank from a holy chalice. And everybody like, it's a cup. No, the holy chalice is the chalice of the chaste woman, which is the design of a garment that she wore that covered up her holy parts, her sacred yoni. But we don't know what none of that stuff means, so we take the white man's lies to be the truth. That's just not the case. So going through the schools that I went through, I was able to see from a different perspective because I wasn't influenced by the educational system enough for them to control how I think.
So
They arrested development, didn't work. Yeah.
Was going down there to unchain them to come up.
That's a challenge to the paradigm given, that they never thought that we would be able to critically think enough to just analyze the narrative to determine if it was reasonable. Why would you bring all them people for Africa when it was people already here? Okay, one of the problems I got with them keep telling me my land stolen. I keep walking on it everywhere I go. Part of the theft had to be the concealment. Where is the concealment part of the theft? That's what they need to be trying to investigate. Because if we still see the land, then that means that it's another method of concealment for them to steal it. What are they concealing that is allowing them to hold on to the land?
And they're the visitors. They're the ones who came over here on this land.
See, from over here, from the paradigm of an organic Mississippi walking red clay dirt Negro, they want us to claim to be from Africa to disassociate ourselves from this land. Because once we disassociated from the land, we surrender the birthright.
Absolutely. I agree 100%.
If you know who you are and you asserting your birthright on the land that you from, while you living free on the land, they have to honor that. But most of us want to accept the paradigm that was shoved down our throats in 400 years of Westerners educating our children as to what's to be accepted as the truth or not. It's a uniform system. You can't get that out your head. It's a uniform system. It's written in a uniform format to follow the uniform commercial code of the admiralty jurisdiction of the occupiers that's occupying our land. They didn't steal it. They just convinced you wasn't from it. It's still here, and you still, the sisters have the first right to the birthright of the earth rights. What that means is, by mitochondrial connection, first in time is first in order. This is why they say the last shall be made first and the first shall be made last, because the first was already playing the back position, the last position. Malcolm told you we was the caboose on the train. What is he telling you in tribal talk versus the common language? So now we have to put the caboose as the engine because the engine broke down. Now the caboose is leading the train as the engine, because it was really the engine the whole time. It was just the engine being dragged around by another engine. So If the last becomes first, that means that the so-called white man's world falls down and the black woman world returns. Well, we call it the black woman world because she's first in time, first in line for the inheritance of the earth right. The earth right is the right to restore the balance to Earth's nature, air, land, and water. That's the great law. The earth rights, RITES, is the practice of executing the restoration by restoring the great mother to her position of prominence. This is the only way Earth can be balanced. It's the only way it's ever been balanced under the great matriarchy of the great mother. Every 26,000 years, we have to rewrite the future. And over the course of the 26,000 years, what started out as a golden age will deteriorate because it's following the laws of nature, and that's called entropy. It can't stay a permanent system because nothing in nature is permanent. Everything rise up, fall down, rise up, fall down, ebb and flow, right? The blood of the original people is the blood right to redeem. Whether y'all believe me or not, these people know who every one of us is. They've been following us since birth. They followed our parents and our grandparents. And it's certain families that they kept the closest watch on because those were the heirs that had the right to take everything from the enemies that's squatting on the land as a military occupational regime masquerading as our government, right? So when we assert our birthright, it don't matter. I don't care if I don't know none of my ancestors. I know who I am. And I know where I'm from, first in time, first in order, right? I'm the firstborn of the earthborn parthogenic son of the great mother. So whenever it get out of control and can't nobody fix it, mama call her baby boy.
Okay.
So if they don't know what that means, they better go ask their Masonic brothers. Because they gonna tell him, if you're telling me if he's saying that what he told you, that would mean Hiram is raised and he's walking. They don't know who Hiram is. The Masons know what I'm talking about, right? Because Hiram Abiff, the master builder, is the one who have to exhume the great mother from the shrine of the Black Madonna. Why do they call it that? Right? He in the tomb, she in the shrine. That's a 2-bar cane in the 4-corner shuffle. That's a 7-sister seal, Pleiadian knot. This is all code that we all used to know when we have meetings with each other on foreign parts of the land that we ain't from as a visitor. But now it sounds foreign to our people when you're using a foreign language, but you're using our code to talk it. All of the lodges know what's up. I don't care if they don't never show up. They know what the real deal is. They know that they came over here messing with these feather-wearing Afro chiefs, and they got their tails handed to them. Right? Tupac talk about it all through his music, but don't nobody know what he's saying in the code talker language, but they know what he's saying in English, in the colloquial language of the hood. But he talking code talk too. Biggie was too. ODB was too. These chiefs. But they can't come up through the traditional leadership roles because the leadership roles been usurped. And anybody that try to rise up in politics or anything of that matter, activism, is murder. And if they figure out that we talking to each other, they gonna try to murder us until one of us claim the birthright before they can murder us. Now they gotta listen to them even if they don't want to. And the process is to look up Pretender to the Throne. There's a process as a pretender to the throne you have to go through to claim your throne. If you don't know what the process is, and it's above your pay grade.
Right.
Over here, the chiefs have a certain way to raise a chief to prominence. If you don't know what it is, that's above your pay grade. Your spiritual rank ain't high enough to know what's going on. So now you running around using what the paleface told you in the book as your source. And the worst of the misleaders is they look like us. Because the people we fighting the whole time that brought all of this war to our doorstep and swore to never surrender and hold us as our eternal enemy, we didn't swear no ill will to them people. They done that to us. Our big mamas took them in and fed them when they came on them ships. And what they do? They massacred us. And then they told us it was somebody else with a pale face. The original French, Dutch, Portuguese, and Irish that came over here, they wasn't buttermilk complexion. But we don't know that because them the lies they tell in the books when they rewrite history. She have to learn how to read her emotions, and she'll have a literal blueprint to ascension. Most women, the ones that they call toxic, don't learn to read their emotions. They use their emotions to fly off the handle about whatever it is. When your emotions giving you more information, once you learn how to read it, it's a navigation system. Another thing is talk to your uterus. If you're a woman, clasp your hands together over your uterus. Close your eyes, relax, and just say, Big Mama, tell me whatever I need to know. It's Jesus on the main line because Jesus is Isis. The main line is the uterus. It's a portal of life that's only seen in creation. So if it's a portal, it don't matter what your skin complexion is now. Once you got that uterus on Earth, you have power to talk to Prime Source if you tap into that energy, right? Another thing is raise your vibration by not feeding into low vibrational activity. You start to walk in what's called your Earth Angel form. And you can tell the women that do that because they can be old as hell, but they still look like a teenager in the face. She like a gray-haired teenager, right? Because they take care of themselves spiritually. In that spiritual light, it corrects the beauty flaws, right? So you have to also be aware of the fact that when you ground in with the Earth's mitochondrial is talking to the mitochondrial in the woman. It's y'all trading information on birth defects, how to get rid of them. Y'all going over how to manage the Y chromosome. All this is taking place in the mitochondrial communication between Earth and women. The Y chromosome is a mutation. So it has to be regulated by something that's not mutated in order for it to have its optimum performance. And that responsibility goes to the mitochondria while the woman is gestating. And this is why she don't always make every Y active. And sometimes when it would have came in as a boy, she overrode it and said, nope, the DNA is faulty. This one's going to have to be a girl to correct the error. This is all done within the woman. In the uterus, between the uterus and the Queen's chamber in the brain, where the pineal glands sit. The understanding of the self, it gives you the highest access to your power. And when you realize that y'all little Earths walking around on Earth, but you're also children of the stars, because everything in creation is made up of accumulated stardust. That's how we got here. That's what makes things solid. The accumulated stardust. It forms into our soils and our rocks, and it eventually bursts out as flora and fauna. It's the women who decided how to decorate Earth with the different flora and fauna. Or else we just had one bland, uniform plant for everything that don't work for everything. The diversity came from interacting and communicating with people from other places to put the proper flora and fauna. That's how come the women knew. If you go back and listen to Credo Mutua, he said it was our mothers who went out into the field and tested all of the plants to determine what was used for healing and what was used for killing, right? Because some plants will kill you dead and some plants will make you whole. But you got to know the difference in the ones. And the women was the ones who came up with herbology. They was already here doing herbology before they decided to produce a Y chromosome.
Yeah, sure did.
So your first medicine man was actually a medicine woman. Your first shamans was actually a priestess walking the land. Some women is so disturbed in the self, they supposed to be by themselves. This is why you always got the story of the old lady living in the woods in a little hut by herself. They call her the witch of the woods. But that was she just was too volatile to be in the community, so they kicked her out. Her energy was pure chaos. The women didn't allow toxic women to infect they clan. That's not the man's job. It's the women's job to oust the rotten rogue women. And it's the men's job to correct the bad men. So part of their system is stopping the good men from correcting the bad men with the force of the government. You have endocannabinoid receptors in all your organs, all through your brain. The endocannabinoid system is the glue or the link between your spirit body and your physical body. The shaman's been aware of this for thousands of years. Western science is only just now discovering the endocannabinoid system. The marijuana chiefs is the ones that use it for psychic facilitation, to allow your psychic senses to become active, because the world around us is at a stress level that it drowns out your psychic voices in your head. So the ganja is one of the methods you use to break down the surrounding environment and to enhance the internal dialogue. We've been doing this for thousands of years. This is nothing new to us. And also, if you remember, every time they went to go sign the treaty, they had to smoke the peace pipe. Why? Because the ganja make you a built-in lie detector.
Good point, yeah.
So if they come in with the treaty and they telling us it mean one thing, but it means something else, and you make him smoke that ganja, he can't lie to you. Especially when you put him in the middle of 2 or 3 chiefs, because they standing on truth. And the lie becomes almost impossible to stand up in the presence of truth. So you smoke the ganja to make the psychic sympathetic link. So when he started to tell that lie, you can say, you're going to turn your mouth to tell me that lie you about to say. I already know. That's when they came up with the term pale face speak with forked tongue. Mm. That don't mean he lied. But everybody think it mean he lied. It don't mean he lied. It mean he's talking for 2 people. He talking for himself and he talking for the one sinning. That splits the tongue. So the chiefs knew this. So he tell Paleface, what do you want versus what the people that had sent you want you to have. This is how we was able to get Paleface to assist us in every time we tried to rise up. We was facilitated by pale faces and we was cut down by chocolate nappy head Negroes. Then Mark Vasey, he was assisted by a pale face who died with him. Gabriel Prosser was assisted by a paleface. Nigga told on him.
Well,
so everywhere we go, COINTELPRO, the Panthers was infiltrated by nappy-head Negroes.
That you right about that.
The Nation of Islam was infiltrated by nappy-head Negroes.
Didn't
no paleface infiltrate the nation. And this is how you know that when they killed Malcolm, paleface didn't want nothing to do with that. Because he knew that's the wrong one for us to touch. Let them ones that's telling us to kill him, kill him. The French told us when he tried to land in France when he was going to Mecca. When they said, we don't want your blood over here. We don't want no parts of that. And Malcolm knew he was being followed over there. Nation of Islam wasn't following him over there. Who was following him? There was those people that look like us that's running everything behind the scenes. They control, everybody think that the CIA, the KGB, and the Mossad are different organizations. They are the same. They want us to pay attention to the war in Gaza. Why? It's a distraction. It don't got nothing to do with us. The first thing we got to realize is the same chocolate complexion, nappy head Babylonians is the same ones infiltrated them, was the same ones infiltrated us. If we don't never put that together, we won't understand, because it was the scramble for Africa under the Berlin Conference that divided that landmass up and drew the name Africa, which is an Arabic word, ifraka, which means to divide up. They named it that because of they didn't name it after Scipio Africanus. They didn't name it after Leo Africanus. It's named after the events of the Berlin Conference in Arabic, because it was some dirty Moors behind the whole thing. Yeah. Exactly. So look, when we went into the war using catch terms to classify groups of us. The catch term Moor, it's encompassing more than just one group of people.
Right.
This is why we say righteous Moor, dirty Moor, because it was under the banner of Moor that we was fighting the Conjure War, the 200 years war of George Washington, where it was challenged to bring a ceasefire to the Gullah Wars, for the Mississippians to go into a Conjure War against those ones from Europe that got exiled. There wasn't pink people getting exiled out of Europe in the Spanish Inquisition. They was exiling the Moors. In the French Revolution, they was fighting the Moors, the black nobility of Europe that lived in Switzerland. You can't live there no more. Ain't nowhere safe for them nowhere on the planet. Right? They done turned the militaries of all of the countries that's fighting for freedom against the cabal. The same ones. It's an ancient royal family, right? They've been doing this for years. Their time is up. They had 6,000 years to run their tyranny. It's over. And I'm the last chief to come and say it's over before y'all see the result of it being over. The DNA is the biggest fraud of this century. It's for entertainment purpose. The people that run it tell you it's for entertainment purposes only, and that it's not accurate. The only DNA that's real accurate is parental determination. They don't test the same amount of genetic material to find your ancestry that they do for parental verification. And it's easier to find the markers of a parent than it is 10 grandparents back. Right? So every child got 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 great-grandparents, 16 great-great-grandparents, 32 great-great-great-grandparents. Okay, now which one of them from Africa? And then what happened when they amalgamate with the dark-skinned, woolly-haired tribes of this land? How much DNA material is expressed in 10 generations? See, the royal families of the earth understood what the European didn't find out until the development of what's called the Habsburgs gene and the hemophilia, or the hemophiliacs that caused the War of the Roses. They didn't know that you have to marry into different royal families of the world if you're going to be having incest, or else the genetics will become corrupted. So what did we do? Princesses and princes from over here was chiefs and junior chiefs was marrying in Africa all up and down the seaboard of the eastern coast, all in the islands. This is not new, but they want us to believe that we just started encountering each other in 1492.
Right.
But Ivan Van Sertima wrote They Came Before Columbus, that shows you our interaction with peoples of Africa long before Columbus sailed. Right? So we already know historically we have royal families over here marrying African royal families on the eastern seaboard. The western seaboard, we have records of marrying Asians and trade across the Pacific to diversify the genetics. This is why we look so many different native appearances, and this is why when they brought their slaves, they was able to send them to Indian school to impersonate us, because some of us look Asian because we had Asians in our blood. This is where we all got Lee in our name from. Bertie Lee, Arthur Lee, Henry Lee, right? And right, the name become popularized because it's the connection of the tribes in the Americas with tribes from Asia long ago, before Columbus ever was born. But we don't know what that stuff means because we don't know the culture no more. See, once they start trying to corrupt the culture and fighting the war on the culture, they can figure out how to divorce us from the land by making us forego reading our culture and understanding our own movements as a people. Right? They have the maps of them moving the North American slave trade, where they was taking us from the north, taking us to the south, telling us we from Africa. They was taking us from Louisiana to the islands, telling us we from Africa. Shuffling us around like we don't know who we be. We know who we be. They just don't know. DMX told them they don't know who we be. But we know because we have various ways to communicate beyond the common measures that they gave us. They think we can only communicate by talking. I could feel a chief on the other side of the country if you want me to, if you're trying to get a message to me. And then I'll get some kind of event in the physical world to show me that he's talking to me for real, and it is not my imagination. Most of the wars that we was fighting, when it first started, it was the ones in exile from Europe coming over here. And the ones that were in exile, we just so happened today to call them Moors. They was once called Etruscans.